Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Good morning and welcome, a warm welcome. It's a whirlwind of activity. It seems like we get involved all the time. But you are here to join me in the Fighting CPS with Bob Pace. I'm your host for the next hour, and I wanted to relate what has happened to me in CPS and others. I every show, which is twice a day, I come on at typically at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time and at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour. And I'm here to help you all fight CPS. You just heard from my attorney, Vincent Davis. I want to thank him, thank him for all he does. He puts on many podcasts for free. He tries to help you all. He'll talk to you. And he is a real family dependency juvenile lawyer. That's dependency law you're in that deals with families and juveniles. Now, this morning, I also have an honored guest. Her name is Faye Manley. She's from Richmond, Kentucky. She's a single mother. She has one child that she's taking care of. And she's had a traumatic experience in the child protection system. Now, I call it the child protection system because every state has their own names for the child protection system. This system is a system that's mandated by Congress to protect our children from neglect and abuse. Apparently, that wasn't the case this last Monday when a 5-year-old girl in Kansas was found so bad, so out of touch with things. They tried to revive her, but they lost her. And so a 5-year-old child now will never get a chance to experience what most of us are very fortunate to experience, which is life. And her life was cut short because she was raped by a 24-year-old man in the house she was living with relatives that, they knew some harmful things would come into this girl. And she went out on her own and settled in with a wilderness family, people that are homeless, live in the wild. And apparently she didn't do very well because she's small, she's young, she didn't have enough warm clothing or whatever the case may be. But it's really sad to hear day after day or see day after day of children that Congress has told social services, the people that are supposed to give help to people. They've told these social services that an entity was formed. Well, it's been formed. They say it goes back to the 1600s. But anyway, this entity is supposed to protect your children from neglect and abuse, and it isn't doing so. It's going in two different directions. One way is supposed to protect the children. The second way is abusing the children and families. It's a money-making business as social services has become. Anyway, they're supposed to protect your children from neglect and abuse. Furthermore, if a family is in need of food, shelter, clothing, transportation, educational, medical, and even a job, they're supposed to help. They're supposed to help our people. We are supposed to be a country that we're supposed to help out each our own. We worry about the world. I think that's great. But we also need to think about our own people here, people that have lived here that unfortunately have hit hard times through no fault of their own. And it's everywhere. It's not only in California, but it's in Kentucky and so forth. And so Faye, who as a young child was in and out of social services 5 different times, and she miraculously somehow is able to take care of one of her child, take care of herself. She got a high school degree. She got a college degree in nursing. And unfortunate, the abuse that she suffered in and out of foster care 5 times because her mother was a drug addict. Her mother didn't really take care of her very well. In fact, when she had her babies, her mother wanted to take one of her children and use the money that that baby would get because the money was the special needs child, the girl, the daughter. So at 8.5 weeks, she lost her daughter. She had to choose between her son or her daughter, and it wasn't by her choice, but that's how corrupt the child protection system is. You know, in Kentucky, it's called the cabinet. In Arizona, it's called the Department of Children's Services. Even with counties next to each other, they have different names. In California, Orange County, it's called the Child Protection Services. In LA County, which is next door to Orange County, it's called the Child Family Department. It's DCS, Department of Children and Family Services, Department of Children and Family Services. So when I say CPS, I mean them all. All the entities are found in the county. All the entities are found in the county. So anyway, Faye has joined me this morning because we're going to try to help you all understand what we can do, maybe to help you or enlighten you, because she and I have come up with 5 rules to live by. She added one that was really important, rule number 5. And so we'll touch base on those quickly. But this agency is not only, they're supposed to protect our children, they will do so by taking the children and trafficking them into foster care, which is illegal. Anytime you traffic a person, a human, or whatever, is illegal, or alienate the children from the family. They're supposed to do something called reunification, and they don't seem to want to do that. And it's like it doesn't make money for them. They've learned to discover how much money they can make. In fact, the Incentive Act that President Clinton signed into law says they give money to agencies who fastly process the children. See, the problem being is that family reunification is dragged out and takes so long, but foster care is very quick. Only trouble is foster care is corrupt. Foster care is very, very corrupt. You say, how can it be corrupt? Well, they join an organization as foster parents. Very little screening takes place, very little vetting of their background checks. And inside of 6 months, they can become foster parents. They don't have really the extensive background. You see, when you adopt a child, it costs lots of money, takes lots of time, a year or 2 before you get that child. But in the foster care system, under the direction of the Child Protection Services, they can have a child within 6 months, and they get money. You see, there's so much money. It's $1 trillion business that moves from the federal government to the state governments to the county governments. And they get the money unanswered. I mean, they don't have to count for it. There's no transparency. In fact, in Richmond, Kentucky, there's over $1 million unaccounted for. They found one individual who charged him with $400,000 of it, of embezzling the funds, but they still don't know where the other $600,000 is. And so it is corrupt, whether you were in Maine or Pennsylvania or Florida. I've talked to over 600 people in all the 50 states, including Washington, D.C. And the common thing they all have is CPS takes my children, when they shouldn't have taken my children. They're in for the money part of it. I know from first-hand experience because 3 of my 6 children were taken from me. 3 of my 6 children were taken. They were trafficked into foster care. They were damaged. They were hurt. Foster care has a high rate of abuse of children. Why? Because they treat them like, toys, I guess, because it's an easy to get the money. All they have to do, they don't have to pay for those children. The child protection system gives them the children. And instead, those children are all the time abused in foster care, even their own children of the foster care. Excuse me one moment, please. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to take a moment to talk to my son. I'm broadcasting from my home, 3 blocks from the ocean. I live in Surf City, USA, and that's in California. And so I'm doing this podcast right from my phone, and I'm very blessed to still have 2 of my 6 children living with me. That's such a blessing. They're my 2 sons, and I'm really proud of them. Anyway, one of them is actually going to work. They know about the importance of a job. I mean, both my boys worked all through high school at a job, and then in the summers they worked jobs, and so both of them in college, and both of them are doing quite well. So I'm very blessed to have, of my 6 children, 2 of them together and doing well. Now, going back to foster care. Foster care, another thing is foster care parents' own children will do bully to other children. And they are constantly beat up and hurt. And it's wrong. That's not how we take care of people, not how we take care of families. And so there are 4 simple ways to interact with this podcast. One way is to before I say that, I need to tell you the show times. So I was saying at 7 and at 10, and then on Sunday there is I'm on at 8 o'clock instead of 10 because of church. And in 2 weeks, 2 Fridays, I have one more playoff game that the state championship. So one more high school game in 2 weeks. But next Friday, I'll be on at regular time. So I want you all to remember that this podcast is for you. This podcast is you to interact and ask questions. I'm here to help you. I'm a family man. I have 42 years of marriage. I'm a 75-year-old dinosaur, and I've worked all my life. Unfortunately, I lost my job at age 60 in 2010. I've struggled to find work, but old people, they don't want to hire. And it's just an age thing. But hopefully that will change. So I want to share what my CPS case was about. I was only hiccup in my life is that I didn't have a job at the time that CPS got me involved. And it actually, I found out that it was my grandparents. See, there's 2 kinds of people that report incidents. And not my grandparents, my in-laws, my wife's mother, father, 3 sisters and brothers were calling in once a week to make illegal complaints, making complaints that weren't true. You see, we have it that anybody can call in the CPS, especially lay people, and make up a story if they want to retaliate against your neighbor or retaliate because maybe your neighbor's yard is overgrown or maybe the dog barks too much. So they'll make up stories. The problem is the CPS within 24 hours has to follow up and investigate those stories. And right away, they think you are guilty. It's the only law that you're guilty until you're proven innocent. Every other law, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. That's the attitude that most of the laws take. But with the child protection system, you're guilty. And right away, they have incentive to take your children away, get them into foster care adoption, because they'll get a lot of money. It works on the incentive program. And the reunification of the family doesn't take place. It's a back seat. You see, there's no money, I guess, in reunify, and it's so easy for them to send them off to foster care. It seems like the child protection system doesn't really want to help the children and the families. They just want to push people around so they collect lots of money. They are corrupt. And I can tell you, Faye will tell you how corrupt they are in Richmond, Kentucky. Kentucky is the bottom of the barrel of abuse to children. And lots of children die. You know, they're supposed to help out. It's just so sad. We read the stories. We read the stories about how bad it is. For instance, Faye, would you like to share a story that you just shared with me today about a girl in Temecula County, California, that is doing something about herself?
She was a foster child that was running an ad in a Facebook community group for Temecula and Marietta County, trying to sell herself to people to adopt her. She says, "Hi, everyone. My name is Kenna, but people call me Kenna for short. I'm 15 and I'm a current foster youth. I've been looking for someone who is a foster parent, or if anyone knows of any people who are. I have been trying my hardest to try and find someone who can help. I really want to just live where there is love in the air, you know? I hope everyone is having a good day. And honestly, if someone can really look into their hearts and find some way to help, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Love, Kenna." Social worker's name and my attorney has been added to this ad. You can contact them if you're interested in me.
So what's your gut feeling? What's going to happen to that child?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends. I know in my county, social workers are not good about caring where a child goes as long as they find somewhere for it to go. They don't really do background checks. They don't vet people. They place kids in the home with pedophiles and sex offenders and convicted felons. So this child could end up in anybody's hands. And a lot of times, traffickers will look for stuff like this right here.
Yes, that's the problem that people don't realize, that the predators, the pedophiles, the sex traffickers, the abusive people prey on these kinds of ads. I mean, the internet is sad to say it reaches everywhere. Now, I've talked to over 600 people, and I've talked to over 17 countries, and I've talked to every state, and all have something in common, that they were wrongly accused or their children was taken into foster care. Now, Faye, hopefully that message will tell people out there, Temecula County, California, that you have to be careful about advertising. That girl is lost. She needs a family, and she so desperately she got talked into doing that. So you find that package, John? Okay. You might want to microwave it, but take out the stuff inside, just the two things. So yes, I do like that. We are very blessed to have a person in the room, Martinez. Now, Martinez, I think you're from California. She says Monterey Park, which is the LA County part of California. It says, I, Martinez, good morning. I want to know what's the possibility that my husband can return home. Now, I don't know why your husband's away from home. He has unsupervised visits from East LA. The court is Monterey Park, so I don't know if she is separated from her husband, and the husband has the kids. I don't know what the allegations are. She further says, we have a progress hearing Monday. And you say we, I assume you and your husband are still together, but somehow you're living apart. And we don't know what the accusations are, whether you as the mother of the children and he is the father of children have been accused, and now he has custody of the children. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that at all. So, all right. I'll say my son to take off, and it's funny how when they grow up and they reach a certain age, well, they don't require adults to wear helmets. Anyway, he grows up. Kids grow up there. But Martinez, I want to help you. I assume you're in LA County, which is a very bad county that deals with CPS. They call it the Department of Children and Family Services. And you have a dependency court hearing on Monday, which is only 2 days away. And it's a progress hearing. Now, a progress hearing wants to see if you all are doing the things called in your plan. Usually there's a plan where they identify what particular classes you have to take or programs you're involved, and also how you're doing so far on it. So I don't know what the allegations are, whether it's neglect or abuse or both of them are details, and why the husband has the children or not. Now we have Crystal Sandoval. You've been on here before. We know Crystal, don't we, Faye?
Sandoval?
Yeah.
No, Salazar, but not Sandoval.
Oh, we have somebody new. You're right. Martinez, if you can answer those questions, we want to help you. Now, Crystal Sandoval got to know your constitutional rights and your amendments. It starts off with that. You're right, Crystal. Can you tell us your county or the city you're from and the state? And that would be really great. Yeah, we know about constitutional amendment rights, but you know what? CPS doesn't care. You see, you got a rogue agency that all it thinks about is money. They don't care, Crystal. You can know your rights, which is very important. Like one of the rights are you don't allow them in your home. They have to get permission, or they have to have a warrant. You don't have to give them your children. They got to, again, get permission or have a warrant. They just can't take children or enter your home. Then there's 3 ways that they can. 1, you give them permission. 2, there's a bad case of domestic violence occurring, meaning that the parents are arguing in front of the kids, they're using weapons, or there's some harm could happen to the kids. The social worker, the police will enter the home. The 3rd way is what's called a warrant. And a warrant is a very important piece of document that CPS workers or police have to go to a court judge and ask them based on facts that they have. And I think it's just word of mouth. I think warrants are given out too easy. I think it's word of mouth. I think all they have to do is, because I wear a uniform, I'm a policeman, I can easily get a warrant. Or I'm a social worker, I can easily get a warrant. Now, the purpose of the warrant is that the police or the social worker is identified to the courts that the child is in danger and they need to take the child. And they supposedly have tried all efforts to investigate and talk to the parents, which a lot of times isn't true. And then sometimes they abuse the warrant. They use an old warrant from somebody else, doctor the dates. That's why you got to check at the dates. Those dates got to be workday dates. They can't be holidays or the weekend dates. The court's not open on the weekend or holidays. So they got to be legitimate there. Furthermore, it's got to be completely filled out where they identify the people that they're accusing of neglect or abuse. And they have to state what the neglect or abuse and the names of the children. They have to put the address on there where it's taken place and where they can investigate. And they have to have specific directions of what they can do. Take the child, ask you questions, come into your home, those kinds of things. Furthermore, it's got to be signed, a wet signature by a judge, and the clerk of that courtroom needs to hand stamp it so the signature is raised so no one can forge it. A PDF file on a computer won't work because a lot of stuff can be doctrinated. Well, anyway, we have two people this morning, I Martinez and Kristen Sandoval. I think you all are new, and a reason why we got confused because there's another Crystal that we have in here. Now, Crystal Sandoval further says, alarm for arrest, kidnapping, and smuggling of a child. Yeah, it is. Anytime that CPS comes knocking at your door, you have to do two things. One is you go someplace in the house and lay quiet. Don't answer the door. Too many people have been killed answering the door. And so I'm telling you, if the door comes knocking, don't answer it. And if you're outside and you meet the social worker, then you say very little to them because what you say will be used against you. And the easy way to get out of the environment is to say, I have an attorney. And since this is a criminal matter, I need to have my attorney present. So I will get back to you. You get the name of the social worker or the police. Make sure you verify their name on their badge or on their ID because I hate to say it, social workers lie, and so do police. So they may say a name that's not theirs, and then you're up the creek without a paddle here. So it's like you're suddenly burdened with so much you have to know to deal with CPS. You know, you're not born with a manual. You didn't go to school to study CPS. They're a corrupt agency. They retaliate. They do revengeful things. They don't like parents. In fact, they don't like seniors, and they certainly don't like elderly people. And they're supposed to take care and give respect to elderly people. And they don't believe in family reunification. They just want to dump them and make money. And the way they make money is to manipulate the foster care system. It's $1 trillion business, $1 trillion business. So one of my first rules I say is you need to get an attorney. You need to get an attorney. Now, since we've been talking about other things, I'm going to put my phone number up. So that way, if you want to call in and ask a question, my phone number is there. It's 626-698-0990. And it's available you to call in. The other number you see on the screen is my attorney's office, Vincent W. Davis Associates. It's 888-888-6582. If you wish to retain them, you can call in. Make sure you tell the office that Bob Pace sent you. And then on top of that, if you need an attorney for another legal matter, like immigration law, that's a real popular one, or you have a criminal matter, or you want a divorce, or you have a problem with foreclosure or being booted out of your home, something to do with the real estate law. Anyway, he has an attorney that'll help your needs. So that's why the other number is up there on the screen. And we have several people in the room. We have Faye Manley from Richfield, Kentucky as my honored guest. And then we have I. Martinez from Monterey Park in LA County, California, that has a hearing on Monday. And supposedly, I guess her and her husband are separated and he has custody of the children. But that's all I really know. So if you want to call in or tell me more, I appreciate that. And Crystal Sandoval is calling in and giving us advice about constitutional rights and amendments. And it's alarm for arrest of kidnapping and smuggling of a child. Yeah, they do alienation, which is against the law. They do trafficking. Not only do they do child trafficking, they do medical trafficking. A lot of you may not know that when you take your child into urgent care or the emergency room hospital, there are social workers that work there, and they will try to take your children because they overhear something or they make a wrong evaluation that the child's in danger. That's the trouble. The agency hides behind a cloak. When they say that they're a child protection system and they, have social workers who work for there it's a government agency. And so they hide behind a cloak and they abuse the power that they have. CPS is very abusive in the power. So we have another candidate, Michelle Portner, who just came on, and she's been on here before, and she's from Tennessee. Oh, wait, no, I'm correct that. I thought Michelle Portner is from Georgia. Let me see now. Did you guys see Connie Rigo from Tennessee is starting a class action suit? Regularly,
yeah.
Yeah, regularly. Yeah, could you tell me about that, Faye, about that person from Tennessee?
Connie Reguli, or Reguli, I don't know how she pronounces it, is an attorney out of Tennessee.
Okay, and she's starting a class action suit. Michelle is from Georgia. She's from Atlanta, Georgia, and she's been on the show several times, and she has her kids that were taken from her too. So Tennessee is starting a class action lawsuit. Well, I'm glad to hear all these news from all you people there. We have the third person in the room, and I need to tell a couple things real quickly, that besides being in this room, you can also text messages, which a lot of you are doing. Just make sure that you use your first name and then you put the city or the county you're from and your state. And if you're from another country, and yes, I have other countries, please list your province and your country and try to be complete with your case. A third way, and my show producer was here, but she went in and out because there's a very important show getting started right now in Vincent Davis's show. And his show is a live podcast about the questions and answers. So you got two shows going on right now. And so he will answer your questions because he is a trial family law dependency lawyer, juveniles. So he's a trial attorney. He's an attorney with over 35 years of experience, and he knows how to fight CPS. In fact, he's done civil lawsuits. When your case is over, you can do a civil lawsuit, and he's won millions of dollars suing CPS. He's a pit bull of attorney, and right now he has podcasts on, sometimes at 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes at 10. He's all the time trying to help out people out there. And Grace is my producer who works behind the scenes that tries to keep everything shipshape and many thanks goes out to her. Now, speaking of Grace, if you want to be a guest on my podcast, all you have to do is contact her at her website, Grace at VincentWDavis.com. Tell me you want to be on Bob's one of his 14 shows, morning or afternoon, Monday through Sunday. And that's all you have to do. She'll return, give you the link, and help you get on the show. I can take up to 9 people with the camera talking at once. So that's 10 people, including myself. And so the show does love to have guests. We have them all the time. Right now I'm speaking with a guest, Faye from Richmond, Kentucky, who is helping me sort of like a co-host. She's been really very intelligent, very articulate about CPS. She follows it clearly. So, she's been through it all. She has been one person that has been through it all as a child and as an adult, and she's still fighting CPS. And she's been fighting for a long time. And they are bad. So is the police and so forth. So to be a guest, that's all you do, and she'll help you with what to do on the show and what not to do. And let me see. I did talk about how to do your comments, and I do have my number up now. My number is up to call in. Those are the 4 ways to interact with the podcast. I want to make them short and simple because I want to help you all with that being said there. So the podcast is open to you. And I've come up with these 5 rules with help from Faye. And I'm going to say them real quickly. Besides rule number 1, get an attorney. And you're going to want to get a court-appointed attorney, but they're not going to help you. They only know criminal law. They have a caseload of 30 more clients. They're not going to fight for you. So you want the real attorney. It has to be an attorney in dependency law, background of juveniles and families. So, they are out there. You just need to, get the questions in there. Because fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. Also, you're like Alice in Wonderland. You fall in the rabbit hole. You're met the Chester cat who's directed to go from room to room. You go nowhere. Child protection system is a nowhere place. They will lie. They'll bring your hopes up high. There's so many people that have called in here that have been promised this or that, and they don't care. It's all about money. It's $1 trillion business. Now, rule number 2 is the notebook. It's something you should organize, and it's real important page in there should be the timeline incident log. That's where you list any incident you have with anybody, and you list the date, the time, the location, and who was involved in the incident on the first line. The second line is a summary of the incident. The third line is the outcome. And that will be so important because 10 years from now, you won't remember everything. 5 years from now, you won't. You probably say 10 years. Well, some people I've heard have been fighting CPS. I mean, I've been doing it for 15 years, and 3 years of it, I did fight CPS to get my children back. And another 5 years, I had all these false allegations that are being called in. So, that is rule number 2. And then 3, I've already talked about it. You don't talk to social workers. You don't let them in your home. And about medical trafficking, you have to be careful because they will try and take your children, whether you're having a baby or bringing your child in. And then rule number 4 is the internet. And you want to make sure that you use it and spend 60 hours on it because there's so much information. It's how you phrase your words. You should start off with a city or cities because you may have a small city like Athens, Georgia. Should be Athens and Atlanta, Georgia. And then you put the state, and then you put the letters CPS, and you'd be surprised everything that pops up. But you can further refine your search, like say you want to know the handbook of the operation procedures of that particular CPS, or you want to know about the ICWA law of 1978, the Indian Child Welfare Act, or you want to know about a 388 hearing or a 160 hearing, or you want to know how they make a complaint or how to fight. There's so much information on the internet. Spend your time wisely there. And rule number 5, since Faye came up with it, I'm going to let Faye talk about rule number 5, which is your documents. Go ahead, Faye.
Huh?
Go ahead and talk about rule number 5, the documents.
Okay, so when CPS takes your children, the first thing that they do is they try to get you to give them information of what doctors they go to and see, so that they can then go to the doctor's office and put a freeze on those medical records so that you can't access them. They do the same thing with the school records. They put freezes on them so that you can't access the school records as well. They want you to sign HIPAA forms so that they can maintain all these records. And I say no, do not sign a HIPAA. And make sure that you have all your medical records, yours and your children's, that's including mental health records as well, all your doctor's records, and keep them at home in a file cabinet, in a locked file cabinet. And also make sure that you have your children's original birth certificate, their social security cards. Do not give these to social services. Keep all your personal information as well in a locked cabinet, because the cabinet will try to persuade you to give these up and give these to them, but you do not let them have your original copies, because what they do then is they once they decide if you're going to get your kids back or not, if they move to terminate your rights, well, you won't have any proof that your children were ever even born to you. And then after your children are adopted, hopefully it won't come to that in your case. But if that does come to that, then you will no longer be on their birth certificates. The father won't be. It'll be the new foster family that'll be on there, the mom and the dad. And the whole birth hospital will be changed, and the child's whole name and social security number will be different. So later on, you won't have any kind of proof that you're ever even related to that child in any shape or form if you don't have all those documents.
Well put. You can make copies of those documents too, by the way. They don't have the originals. But
I wouldn't give them a period. They can get their own.
Right. I'm just saying make copies, keep copies in your folder. Keep the originals someplace else. But don't forget your marriage certificate, because they will try to ID the father as a presumptual father. Father is a father. If he's on the birth certificate and he's married, that should be all the proof that they need. I'm just putting a word in for fathers. But these documents are important, school grade reports and shot cards and those things, because I forgot that they put a freeze on these documents. That's a good point why you want to have them, because Faye brought up that they put a freeze on your medical and school records. And I don't know why they can do that or how they get away with that, because I don't know if there's a law that allows a government agency to freeze your personal records. I don't know if that's just a procedure or law or what. But that was a good point. Now, we've had several people come in this room and make comments. We've had, I've had up to 10 people in here. And I've had Martinez from LA County, California. And I've had Crystal Sandoval that has talked about your constitutional rights and important things about kidnapping. And then I've had Michelle Portner, who's from Atlanta, Georgia, talking about someone that is making a lawsuit, class action lawsuit in Tennessee. And I'm glad you guys are sharing that with me. Because anything you can do will help you all. We're here to talk about any topics. This is supposed to be an interactive podcast, meaning that you're supposed to be able to say something and get an answer back. All I ask you is to take that time. Now we have about 15 minutes left of my 1 hour podcast. I did start it early, only because there's another podcast that's going on right now that you all will be able to go to. They're in this room, can attend, and that's a live podcast by my attorney talking about rules and stuff about CPS. You see, if some of you don't know what kind of individual CPS is, all you have to do is think about these pink ladies in Prescott, Arizona, who decided to buy pink T-shirts and stencil on the front of them, professional child kidnappers, and on the back they said, "Parents, you know where your children are at." Now they parade around to all these different department stores and everything, and it was the wrong message. They were fired, and in fact, the director of that outfit in Prescott was fired, left with one individual who could not handle the calls or the investigations of children that need help. There are lots of children. They say over 1,000 children every day are lost in the system. And that to me, I just can't believe 7,000 children gone in a week's time. Boy, these statistics, I wonder how they line up these statistics. Is there anything else you can think of that you'd like to see me cover, Faye? We sometimes do Quora Digest, which is interesting, where we try to pick up questions that Quora takes regarding CPS and answers that people give. Let me pull up one of them and I can ask a question here and we'll see how it works.
Okay.
Now, Quora is a software application for free. It has different topics. I have mine geared for CPS. So I try to find interesting articles about CPS here. Let me see what I can find right now. This one here talks about what were the worst cases that CPS workers and foster care workers ever handled. That's the general question. And let's see what some of the answers are. This was answered by a person that is anonymous. The worst case they see are kids that are put in foster home that kill the kids. They drowned my 5-year-old son, Jaden Huller, before they killed my baby Alzine when the 300-pound foster mom sat on her intentionally. They got away with it too. Binaka Karwoski got less time for drowning my son than I did for contempt of court for telling them that they're incompetent for drowning my son and not moving him when he was being abused. That's why there's no answers here, because they don't want to tell on themselves. They know the truth. That's horrible. A 300-pound woman would sit on a child intentionally. Now, Diana, former therapist, said, I have come across horrific situations with children and animals. Children harmed with numerous objects, chained to beds and trailers. I worked in a unit for the worst abuse because I can handle it. Many workers cannot and do not survive working in regular CPS units for long, let alone in my unit. Let me see here. Now, here's another one. This person was a social worker, Jenny. She said, my social work team was contracted by a primary school with concerns about a 10-year-old girl. It was the time of year when schools were sending letters to parents asking them to choose which secondary school they wanted their child to go to. The young girl, who I should call Nina, returned to school with the form completed and obstinately signed by the parent. But it was obvious to the school that Nina herself had filled in the form and signed it. So they contacted the social work team to investigate. They never had met the mother, but did a home visit. Now, Nina and her mom, Susan, lived in a council flat. This is actually from England, because they use the word mum, N-U-M, and that could be very British or it could be Australian. In a council flat, they call their apartments flats, in a high-rise block in the inner city deprived area. Nina answered the door, and I was shocked by what I found. The whole flat was full of packing boxes and nothing else. There was no floor covering other than linoleum. Suitcases laid on the floor. There were no curtains at the window, no personal knickknacks, nothing but packing boxes and suitcases. It was cold and desolate. Cold and desolate. The place looked like they were about to move a house that day and were waiting for the removal lorry, which is the moving truck. Both Nina and Suna sat on the packing boxes. There was no other furniture. Nina slept on a blanket on the floor, as did Susan. When I was offered a drink, Nina reached into one of the boxes and pulled out 3 cups and a kettle and went to the kitchen to make tea. On the sideboard were tea bags and Stera, milk long life milk. There was no refrigerator, and all the kitchen cupboards were empty. When we finished our tea, Nina washed the cups, put them and the kettle back in the packing box. I asked Nina how long home has been like this, and she replied, always. We went back into the living room and sat in the boxes. It became obvious there was something really wrong, and the story unfolded. The family had decided to return to Jamaica, and Nina's dad left the home one day with the money to buy the ticket to Jamaica and book and pay for the shipping of their belongings. He never returned. Susan, nevertheless, packed up everything, always ready to move. That was over 5 years ago. She still had waiting for him to come home, said he'd be back soon, and refused to unpack the boxes. As I spoke to Susan, Nina was combing her mother's hair, trying to soothe out the tangled mess. It was touchy and clear there was a strong bond. Susan drifted in and out of the conversation, sometimes lucid, sometimes not. Who had been looking after you, Nina? I asked. And she misheard my question, or maybe not, and said, I've been looking after Mum since Dad went away a long time ago. Mum is waiting for him to come back with the lorry. Nina did all the shopping and paid the bills with her money her mom gave her for the welfare benefits. But sometimes the bags are heavy and the shopkeeper helps me carry them to the lift in the block of the flats. It transpired that Nina had been cooking and clearing for mom more than 5 years. She could say accurately how long, but she didn't remember when it started, just when I was young. Nina thought her mom might be ill. She's tired and she sleeps a lot, but she didn't want to take away, so she looked after her instead. Nina struggled to remember what life was like before. Clearly, Dad had done a runner with the money and left Nina's season to do it. What to do? It was clear that Nina couldn't stay there. She'd been a young career for at least 5 years, but Mom was obviously ill and needed psychological treatment. I contacted the mental health services and they sectioned Susan, removed her to a psychological hospital via court order. Nina was placed in foster care. She was distraught and deeply anxious about her mom, but there was no alternative. I stayed in touch with her for a year or so. She never got over the separation from her mom. I placed the case onto a long-term team. Susan was very ill, but eventually was able to return home. The new social worker negotiated for the family to receive extra support, a home help, assistant social worker, and a pastoral support from her new school. Nina was able to return home to her mom. No doubt she continued to care for her mom, was happy that being separated from her. Much later, Susan apparently died. I don't know how or why, and Nina went back into care. 9 years later, from that first knock on the door, I got a call from Nina's long-term social worker. They're doing a family history book as part of Nina leaving care, and my name had come up. Could Nina come see me as part of the work they were doing with her? Of course, I agreed, and Nina had grown into a beautiful young woman, had done well at school, and was happy she could be under the circumstances. She said she remembered me as the first person that tried to help, and she wanted to thank me. I felt humble because I'd caused her a lot of distress when she was separated from her mom. I was pleased that things had worked out as best they could for Nina. There's one more type of destitution neglect. Not all cases, which are worse, involve physical or harm or maltreatment. Think of the emotional loneliness of Nina, but also of her resilience. Susan clearly loved her daughter, and Nina had loved and cared for her mom alone as a child until she was 10 years old, and sporadically afterwards, never questioned that she'd do anything else. It's rare for a social worker to get thanks. That's understandable because people usually are in terrible crisis when you get involved, and I don't expect to be thanked for something that I paid to do. But nevertheless, it was nice when it happens. Wow. What do you think of that one? Faye? Anyway, I think that's enough for Core's Digest. I think it's important now to end my podcast. I want to thank Michelle Portner. She also further said, yes, I did read through Nancy Schaefer's DFAC memo. Thank you, Michelle. That was nice of you to send that to me. And she further says, they try to keep it secret to protect the children. The curtain to there is to hide the death of kids and trafficking. I agree, and it's just so sad that they do hide the trafficking and the death of children. So many children are not there. And Michelle further says, I don't know, I think they killed that baby's mom, but that's just me. On that story you just said, yes, they probably did there, Michelle. But I'm glad her baby is still alive. Yes, it is a blessing thing in there. So, Michelle, thank you for coming to my room and sharing that. It was nice to meet you, Crystal Sandoval, from wherever you are. And thank you for your advice. And Martinez from LA County, California, I hope your hearing goes better on Monday. Make sure that you have an attorney at that hearing, and it should not be a court appointment. It should be the real thing. And again, God bless all you people. I'll be on again tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please join me then. And God bless you all. And this is Faye and Bob Pace signing off. And you're going to hear Vincent Davis join his podcast. It's on right now.